Okay, the mantle cracked in 1991, we know November 23rd, and 219 days later, actually 218, a 7.5 Richter earthquake struck Landers, California, which is evidence that the mantle had cracked. The earthquakes you're seeing right now, the one in Taiwan, the one in Turkey, and the one in Mexico fairly recently, and the one in California, are all earthquakes stemming from this rent mantle. We got serious trouble here. Let me show you why. These troubles in California are not remote. They do affect us. You see that fault line? 1980, Lord had me take the staff, go up to north of Des Plaines, and pray and strike the earth. And when I did, I saw there was a fault line that ran all the way to St. Louis, all the way out to Washington State. I wrote about it June 28th, 1980, published it, and so there's a huge fault. It connects us to what's going on the West Coast. Some people on the mailing list contacted the U.S. Geological Survey in Denver, Colorado, and said, is there a giant fault system that large? They said, there's no fault system over 1,000 miles long. So I think about 40 or 50 people left the ministry and called me a false prophet. This seems to be the standard procedure. Praise God. 16 months later, they just completed a photographic survey of the North Americas from space. And they pieced the pictures together, giving a topographical outlay of the land, and they discovered a giant fault that ran from Washington State all the way through St. Louis to the northern tip of northern Florida. A fault line over 2,000 miles long. Call it a giant rift, but it's a crack. The Lord showed me that crack also runs from St. Louis down to Houston. Houston's going to have a big earthquake when these judgments come. It also runs up to Cleveland and to Chicago and runs down to the west coast of San Francisco. Now, when an earthquake strikes in San Francisco, it relays through this fault system all the way to every part of the country. For example, when the earthquake struck San Francisco in 1989, the aquifer, the water levels in Florida rose dramatically and then dropped hours later. Now that is a seismic reaction to an earthquake 3,000 miles away. In 1980, when Mount St. Helens erupted, I got calls from people who lived in Chicago on the east side of the city, where the city is actually an old swamp, kind of the buildings are sunk. Their basements backed up every time Mount St. Helens erupted. The sewers backed up in their basements. Now, tell me there's not a connection. But the scientists don't seem to understand this. So these shocks relay through the system. When you see major earthquakes on the West Coast, it's going to trigger major events everywhere, including the Midwest, where we're at right here, in this area. And that's what I call a seismic highway. Praise God.